Hey YouTubers, I've been sitting aside kind of watching this whole Anon versus Scientology thing for a couple of months basically, since it started. I started looking into Scientology a little bit before this all started, and I've read probably 1,000 pages of documentation. I've watched hundreds of videos about Scientology, and I just felt I couldn't sit aside and be quiet anymore, so I wanted to make just a short video on a couple of things I wanted to discuss. The one point I want to talk about today is, because I'm sure I'm going to have a few more things to say, is that I'm a logical person. Most of my friends know me as logical. If we have an intellectual discussion, I always kind of point to the logical conclusion of things, and until you prove to me otherwise, I'm still going to be logical. Well, if I was to walk into a Christian church or a Muslim or a synagogue for Jewish folks, and to sit down with a rabbi and ask that rabbi to describe to me what their religion believed, what it was about, what happened in past times, and where is my future, they would sit and discuss those issues with me and make sure I had a very clear understanding of what they were talking about. If I was a born-again Christian, I know that I would have to believe in Jesus as a Savior, and I would know where Jesus came from because there's a book that explains that history. I would know where Jesus came from, and I would know where he thought I was going, and if I believed in him and led a certain lifestyle, that I would have a hope of some kind of heavenly future. And I'm not affiliated with any religion, not Church of Scientology or any other religion. I'm using these as an example. So I would in turn join one of those religions or partake in one of those religions, join a congregation. I would sit in church on Sunday, as many people do, and discuss those things. And my point there is free of charge. They don't take the collections when you walk in the door. They don't want money from you to learn more. They don't expect you to pay a set donation so that I can understand how Jesus would be my Savior. That's an issue that I have with the Church of Scientology. They say, a Scientologist will say, well, every church works on donations. Every church has donations. If you go to the Catholic Church, they pass the plate or whatever those things are. And I understand that. I understand it completely. They got to have the money to build the buildings and do all those things that they do. But what I don't understand is if you have what you call life-giving information, and David Miscavige has stood in front of folks and said, we need to clear 6 billion people on the earth, which pretty much covers the entire earth, and obviously you think clear is something good for humankind. If you have that life-giving information, you know what? You don't charge tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. It makes absolutely no sense that you call yourself a religion, but you charge for salvation. Absolutely no sense whatsoever, and you're the only so-called religion on earth that I know of that does that makes that claim. And you cannot compare that to people that give freely. You just can't do it. If you have that life-giving information, if clear or the OT levels are going to be the savior of humanity, like you claim them to be, then you would give that information out for free. You would give that information out for free because for the good of all mankind. And you know what? People would give. People would give their money. People would give freely to the Church of Scientology because they appreciated that information, in order for Scientology to continue their task to clear everybody. This is the difference between a religion and between a business. I'm going to use an assimilation here. Let's say I came up with a diet pill, okay? And the diet pill was absolutely a breakthrough. It was known to work for everybody. You know, anybody that is obese or has health problems because they're obese, they take this pill, and a year later they are down to their perfect weight, and it worked for every person in the world, okay? I would be the richest man on the planet if I could come up with that kind of pill. Of course I would charge for it. I would charge for it because, you know what? That's a business, not a religion. And I have this real doubt that Scientology is a religion just because the United States government says so. Do you understand that? It's a business. How could you possibly be a religion when you pay commissions on the sales of your books? Can you imagine going into Catholic Church and the Catholic Church had a Bible sitting in the back, and let's say they charge $25 for it, and the guy that hands you the Bible and takes the money gets 10% commission off that sale? Can you fathom that? So I would like a Church of Scientology person to come online with a video response and logically put together a conclusion that says, hey, we're gonna clear the earth, we're gonna make the earth a better place, and we're gonna do it, we're gonna do that, and this is a good thing for all mankind, but you gotta pay for it. I want a logical explanation for that. That I should be charged for my Savior, okay? And then I want a logical explanation as to why the Church of Scientology doesn't use that money in more appropriate means. You say you have the Narconon and you have all these things that help people off drugs. But you know what? Narconon charges an extreme amount of money to get people off drugs. Okay, so you're not taking your money that you're bringing in, these millions of dollars from the famous people and the other millions of dollars that people are spending with you, and you're putting it towards a wonderful means of getting people off drugs. It's nothing more than a business again. Nothing more than a business. So I would like you to explain to me how that works, how you can justify that in the Church of Scientology. And if you can do that and explain it to me logically, maybe I can accept it. Maybe there's something I just didn't know. So that's my thoughts for today. I hope there's a response that all of us can understand.